Hey everyone, so I've got a few things for today's video, so let's start with the more exciting news. So if you haven't heard, there's currently a free fly going on from today until the 24th. Now that's usually not the greatest news for returning players because it often means a lot of server issues and other stuff, but at least with this one there's a lot of great stuff for current players. Also, I was on right when it started, and knock on wood there haven't been any issues yet, so this one looks like it's going to be better than the last one at least. So with this free flight, you get access to 16 ships to fly around for free, and they've been chosen by the community, so there's a lot of fun ones on the list. If you want to take advantage of this event though, you have to activate the promotion on your account, even if you are a returning player. I have this page linked below because it was kind of hard to find, and you literally just have to copy the code into the box and hit the submit button. I'm not sure why they did this because it just seems to be causing extra confusion, but I've heard it's to help with spreading out the load on the servers while they're making all these changes to the ships that players have access to, so that not everyone's stuff is changing at once. So once you do that, you can launch the game and you should have access to all of the ships. If you're going to check out some of the bigger ships, like the 890 Jump and the Reclaimer, you'll need to be at a location with the Capital class hangar. So Loreville and Area 18 both have these, but for convenience of not having to take off from Atmosphere, I'd actually recommend going to Grimheck, since it recently got one of these hangars. There might be a bit of a line from other players doing the same thing, but I got lucky here and I didn't have to wait on anyone. But yeah, it seems like things are going to be a bit disrupted for the next 2 weeks, because literally anyone can go and pull out an 890 Jump, so that'll be interesting. So moving on, I wanted to share some gameplay I had with the Hammerhead a few days ago. So as you can see here, I was just hanging out around Everest and I noticed that this Hammerhead was sticking around for quite a while with no pilot. Now they hadn't left the server because I could still see the owner of the ship on my scanners, and that goes to unknown when they leave the server, but I figured since they had left it there for so long, they wouldn't mind me borrowing it. Also, it seemed like Hurston Security wanted it moved anyway. They were really swarming the ship. Initially, I wasn't going to make a video about this, once I found out that everyone would have access to their own Hammerhead for the next 2 weeks, making this not that noteworthy, but I figure it's a good example of the fact that you can actually go solo some of these bigger ships if you want to. So the Hammerhead doesn't have any pilot-controlled guns, but it does have 32 size 3 missiles, so you can use those if you feel like, for easily completing a lot of missions. But the fun part is, this ship has 2 large shields, so you don't really have to worry about any of the NPC enemies, and you can just go run to a turret and take them out. On a side note, experiencing the strength of these 2 large shields makes me pretty excited for the Hercules Starlifter, since it'll have 2 large shields as well. That's pretty durable for a cargo hauler. But back to the Hammerhead, you can really tell that they've worked on the turrets for 3.10 because they're a lot better than they were the last time I tried one out during Fleet Week. If you've tried a ship with fixed weapons, it feels like that, but I think the aim assist is even a bit stronger. And I think you'll be able to see this a little bit later when I'm shooting at the claim jumper turrets, because you can see with the virtual joystick line that my mouse is kind of pulling away from the target, but my crosshair stays locked on it. So I wonder if they're going to tune this back a little bit, because it seems like it's pretty strong aim assist right now, but I guess it would be harder to hit targets if the ship were moving, like it normally would be with a full crew. But this ship is a lot of fun, and the only annoyance I had flying it around was the quantum drive. It's incredibly slow to spool up. Also, in this one that I borrowed, none of the external doors worked, so I couldn't leave the ship. But yeah, even if you don't have any crewmates to fly around with you, I'd still recommend trying out the Hammerhead and the other large ships during this free fly. So one last thing I wanted to talk about for this video is the amount of content in the game. I think this free fly is a great example of things they can do to keep the game fresh, even when the updates are delayed. Delays are going to happen, and even when they don't, not everything they work on is going to have a meaningful impact on gameplay right away. However, I don't think CIG have done the best they can on keeping the game from getting stale. Now you might say that this shouldn't be a focus of theirs, since they're still developing the game, but I think there's a few reasons why they would want to. First of all, the bigger the active player base for this game is, the more testing hours they get. I don't know how much data they need, but it probably can't hurt to have a lot of info to look at, and a lot of people to find the bugs. Also, more active players means more funding. Now this year they've been doing pretty well on funding already, but I think adding more replayability to the game would only increase this further. and the more funding they get, theoretically, the higher quality the game will be. Lastly, I think it'll help avoid unnecessary backlash about the game. Now, I'm not saying that CIG should look to never face any criticism, because there's definitely times when they deserve it, like for their continued lack of communication about Squadron 42. But a lot of the negativity about delays and other stuff like that could be avoided if there were just more things to do in the game. Most of the people that are upset about the updates are probably just upset because they want to play the game, but unless you enjoy mining, there's not much variety to the gameplay right now. So there's no perfect solution for this problem, and it's always going to be hard for them to balance working towards a finished product and working on getting stuff in the game for players now. But like I said, events like these, which should be minimally disruptive to the developers, are a great solution in my opinion. These 2 weeks of the event will provide a lot of fun to the players, and if all goes well, the only thing that the developers will have to do for it is change what ships players have available to them, so it shouldn't really disrupt the rest of their work. Moving forward from this though, since they can't do a free fly every week, I think they should start making more varied mission types, especially combat missions. Now, I'm not a developer, but it does seem to me like at least certain types of missions, especially combat ones, should be able to be duplicated with a lot more variation with little effort. If this isn't the case, then that seems like an issue to me, because eventually the game will need this sort of variety once it goes live. Even if it's a limitation of server resources, they could just replace the current missions with new ones every few weeks. But I think adding more missions, especially combat ones with higher difficulty, would add a lot of gameplay and give a reason to play with friends. This alone would add a lot more replayability, because games are almost always more fun to do with friends. A big issue with Star Citizen right now is that you make more money solo than by doing missions with friends, and there aren't any missions where you would need more force than you can bring solo. The fact that I can do every single combat mission in a Hammerhead by myself, I think is a missed opportunity to have varying levels of difficulty. Right now there's really no incentive to have multiple crew members, but I think adding harder combat missions with higher payouts would definitely be a good one. Even looking at this change from their point of view and assuming that they don't care about player satisfaction, it still makes sense for them to incentivize people to engage in more multi-crew gameplay, because that's the only way they're going to be able to get data on it and work on improving it. Last time I tried multi-crew gameplay, especially once I got to have more than just one other person in my ship, my friends and I were constantly falling out and having all sorts of issues, so it definitely does need some work and attention. But it seems to me like it would be hard for them to improve it without many people trying it in-game. So just to sum up my thoughts, I'm happy with what CIG is doing with this current event, but I hope they work on adding content more in the future, and specifically content that is easy for them to add. Let me know what you think about this in the comments though, and especially if you have any ideas for the ways they could keep the game fresh with minimal time and effort. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have some fun with this event. Thanks for watching.